हेलो स्टूडेंट्स, वेलकम टू माय चैनल ओमनी ज्ञान। मेरे चैनल ओमनी ज्ञान में आप सब लोगों का फिर से बहुत बहुत स्वागत है। सो टुडे वी विल बी लर्निंग अनदर लेसन फ्रॉम क्लास 11 English from your Hornbill book. Okay, the address written by Marga Minco. Okay, and as usual, I am going to make here a full explanation of the story. Okay, so without any further delay, let us start the explanation. So let us have a short introduction about the story. Okay, what is the story all about? The Address is a short story by a Dutch writer called Marga Minco. Okay, Marga Minco was a survivor of the Holocaust in Holland during World War II. Okay, the Second World War. So Marga Minco actually in this story, when I'll explain the story and when you read the story, listen to the story. Okay, you'll see that it's a bit of an autobiographical. There are autobiographical elements. That means her life, is somewhere related to the story. So actually, she is a survivor of the Holocaust. Holocaust is the mass killing of people, okay? And it happened in Holland during World War II. And she survived actually that Holocaust period, okay? The story is about a daughter's search for her mother's belongings. So here actually, there is a daughter and her mother had died. Now the daughter is searching for those things that belong to her mother once upon a time. ठीक है, एक टाइम पे ये जो बेटी है इसके माँ के पास कुछ चीज़ें थी और उसकी माँ जो है अभी उनका डेथ हो गया है और वो बेटी जो है अपनी माँ की सामान को ढूंढने निकली है किसी के घर पे. इन somebody's house she goes to take back the things that belong to her mother. Okay, now what will happen? That is actually the story all about. Now before the war reached Holland, the mother had given these belongings to a lady called Mrs. Dorling, who is an acquaintance for safekeeping. Acquaintance here is, you can say, a kind of a friend. Okay, so actually what happened is that before the war reached Holland, matlab Second World War was going on, but before the war could reach Holland, actually the mother sensed actually that these things could be destroyed due to the war. So she gave many of her things to a lady called to a family friend or to a friend, okay, called Mrs. Dorling, to in her house, okay, so that it can be kept safely by Mrs. Dorling. तो मिसेस डॉर्लिंग को उन्होंने ये सामान, मदर ने जो है, माँ ने ये सामान, उनके एक दोस्त है मिसेस डॉर्लिंग करके, उनको कुछ सामान दिया था संभाल के रखने के लिए, टू कीप इट सेफ विथ हर. ओके, नाउ मदर डाइड, नाउ डॉटर विल बी गोइंग टू हर हाउस टू टेक बैक दोज थिंग्स. है ना, माँ का सामान है, इट इज द थिंग्स बिलोंग टू हर मदर. So that this daughter actually will go to the house of Mrs. Dorling to say that, my mother's things are kept with you. So I have come to take back those belongings, those things. Okay. Now that is the story all about how the daughter, the experience of the daughter in Mrs. Dorling's house. Okay. Whether Mrs. Dorling will give back those things or not. And these things, many of these things are very expensive. So whether Mrs. Dorling will give back these things to the daughter, or she will deny that, no, I don't have any such things with me. I do not know you. I do not know your mother. So let us see what is the story, how the story progresses. Now we'll learn the full summary of the story. Now the narrator is actually the daughter. Okay, जो narrator है यहाँ पे, ये daughter है. Okay, so there is a daughter who is narrating the story. The narrator went to Mrs. Dorling's house for the first time. ठीक है, तो when mother died, actually, when this daughter was a very small child, she had seen Mrs. Dorling many times coming to her house, and the address of Mrs. Dorling was given by her mother only before dying, by the narrator's mother only before dying. Okay, so following that address given by the narrator's mother, she went to Mrs. Dorling's house for the first time. When she reached Mrs. Dorling's house and she rang the doorbell, and Mrs. Dorling opened the door. Okay, so Mrs. Dorling, when she saw the daughter, Mrs. Dorling did not recognize her. Mrs. Dorling ने narrator को, बेटी को, daughter को नहीं पहचाना. ठीक है, this narrator, Mrs. Dorling did not recognize. उन्होंने पहचाना नहीं. The narrator introduced herself as Mrs. S.'s daughter. Now, the narrator's mother's name is not given in full. She just uses the, the writer, Marga Minco, just uses the word S. Okay. Anyways, so the narrator says that I am Mrs. S.'s daughter. Okay. Now, still Mrs. Dorling showed no sign of remembering her. Now you see that Mrs. Darling might play some foul game. Maybe Mrs. Darling जो है वो acting कर रही है नहीं पहचानने की. Maybe she does not want to give back those things, okay, that the narrator's mother had given to her once upon a time before dying. Okay, so when the narrator introduced that I am the daughter of Mrs. S, and Mrs. Darling knew the mother, Mrs. S, very well, but Mrs. Darling, she still did not recognize the narrator, the daughter, and she even did not recognize the mother also. Okay, now this is a pure lie. Mrs. Darling and the narrator's mother were very good friends. Let me tell you, were very good friends, and Mrs. Darling used to come to her house many times. Okay, now the narrator even thought she might have come to the wrong address. Now you see, naturally, the narrator, the daughter, thought that maybe I have come to the wrong address. Maybe this is not Mrs. Darling's house. ये शायद Mrs. Darling का घर है ही नहीं. मैं शायद गलत जगह आई हूँ. ठीक है? Maybe I have come to the wrong place. Now you see what happens in the story. Then she saw Mrs. Darling wearing her mother's green knitted cardigan. Okay. Now, when the narrator saw Mrs. Darling very nicely, she saw that Mrs. Darling was wearing a coat, a cardigan, a coat type, okay? And it was green in color. And the narrator immediately recognized that this coat, this cardigan, was given by my mother to Mrs. Darling. So how can Mrs. Darling refuse to recognize me? So the narrator immediately understood that Mrs. Darling is telling lie, that she does not know my mother. She knows my mother very well because she was wearing that green cardigan, okay, that was gifted or given to Mrs. Darling by the narrator's mother. Okay, so naturally Mrs. Darling was telling a lie. The narrator had come to the right address. Okay, now the narrator kept looking at the cardigan in such a manner that Mrs. Darling finally seemed to remember her. Okay, so here you see that now finally Mrs. Darling remembered the narrator. All right. Now the narrator kept looking at that cardigan that Mrs. Darling was wearing, and in such a manner she was looking. The narrator kept looking at the cardigan in such a manner that Mrs. Darling felt a little nervous, okay, could have felt a little nervous, and she finally seemed to remember the narrator. And Mrs. Darling admitted that she thought nobody would ever return. Now Mrs. Darling told the narrator that yes, I recognize you. I recognize your mother also. But you have come after a very, very, very long time. And I thought that no one will come to, meet me ever. Okay. No one will come to meet me ever. शायद कोई मुझसे मिलने नहीं आएगा. Now the narrator explained why she had come to her house. Why she had come to Mrs. Darling's house. So the narrator explained that she had specially taken the train to meet her and wanted to talk. So narrator ने कहा that see, your address was given to me by my mother, who is no more in this world now, who is dead, and I specially boarded a train to meet you. मैंने specially ये train लिया है आपसे meet करने के लिए क्योंकि मुझे आपसे बात करना है, because I wanted to talk to you. Okay. So Mrs. Darling said, no, it is not a convenient time to talk to me, and she closed the door on the face of the narrator. Mrs. Darling ने कहा नहीं इस वक्त मैं बात नहीं कर सकता, इस वक्त मैं convenient time नहीं है इस वक्त मुझसे बात करने के लिए. It is not a convenient time to talk to me. And Mrs. Darling suddenly slammed the door, in fact, okay, closed the door on the face of the narrator. Now, naturally, the narrator might have felt very bad. You see, the narrator had come, from a very long distance. Taken a train, that means what? She had come from a very long distance to meet Mrs. Darling and take back her mother's belongings. Right? But Mrs. Darling refused to talk to her and closed the door. Now the narrator checked the name plate as Darling. So, darwaze pe jo hai, on the door, there was the name plate and it was clearly written Darling. That means she had come to the right house. And above it, above the door, it was written house number 46. Exactly the address given by the narrator's mother. House number 46. So-and-so address, okay? And the nameplate read Darling. So the narrator felt very bad because Mrs. Darling had refused to talk to her. Mrs. Darling ने बात करने से मना कर दिया और दरवाजा बंद कर दिया. इससे जो है narrator को बहुत hurt feel हुआ. the narrator was walking slowly back to the station. अब narrator के पास कोई उपाय नहीं है. There is no way that the narrator can forcefully enter her house, right? So the narrator became very depressed and she started walking towards the station. All right. Now she's going back to her place. Okay, it is no use talking to Mrs. Darling anymore. So she is now she now decided to go back to her home. Okay, and now while walking, when she was walking towards the way to the station, and she kept thinking about her mother, who had given her Mrs. Darling's address many years ago. So many years ago, actually, the mother had given Mrs. Darling's address to her daughter. That means the narrator. And following that address only, the narrator had come to meet Mrs. Darling. So while walking towards the station, the narrator kept thinking about her mother. Okay. And it happened during the early years of World War II. Now we are going back. Okay. हम लोग अभी जो है flashback. Now the writer is having flashback. Now we are going to talk about the past incidents. Okay. Past के जो incidents हुए हैं कि कैसे how Mrs. Darling got the belongings from the narrator's mother. Okay, so the narrator now remembers that. Okay, so it happened during the early years of World War II. Second World War के time की ये बात है. The narrator had once returned home for a few days and noticed many items were missing. So the narrator used to be outside and she returned home for vacation for a few days. And when she reached home, we are talking about the past, okay? The narrator is remembering about the past while she's going to the station. जब वो station जा रही है from Mrs. Darling's house, she is remembering this past incident, okay? ठीक है, okay? So the narrator is thinking that when she was a small child, actually, and she not small child actually she was grown up only at that time, but she used to stay outside and she came home for a few days. And she noticed that in her house there were many items missing. तो घर पहुंच के देखा कि उन्होंने कि बहुत items missing था. Naturally, the narrator asked her mother that, Mom, how come there are many things missing in the house? Where are these things? Okay, she asked her mother about it. Now her mother explained that an old acquaintance, Mrs. Darling, had taken the items. तो उसकी माँ ने जो है narrator की माँ ने narrator को बोला कि actually I have a very old acquaintance, जान पहचान वाली actually, a type of a friend called Mrs. Darling, and she had taken all these items. Okay, some of the items Mrs. Darling had taken from our house. And after many years, her mother had reconnected with Mrs. Darling. और बहुत सालों बाद फिर से जो है बीच में in the middle actually, for many years, her mother had lost touch with Mrs. Darling. ठीक है, मदर जो है मिसेस डॉलिंग के साथ उनका कनेक्शन थोड़ा सा डिसकनेक्शन हो गया था, लेकिन बहुत सालों बाद अगेन हर मदर, द नैरेटर्स मदर, हैड रिकनेक्टेड विद मिसेस डॉलिंग. अब क्या हुआ? यू सी दैट वार हैड नॉट रीच्ड होलैंड येट. World War II had started, but it had not reached Holland yet. Okay, so Mrs. Darling offered to help by keeping their valuable items safe with her in case the family had to leave. So by chance, you see, during the war, many families had to leave, the war areas and go to somewhere else for safety, okay, for their life, to save their lives. Okay, so war had not reached Holland until then. Okay, so Mrs. Darling once, she came to the house of the narrator and she told her mother that, you see, war is about to come to Holland. War is about to reach Holland. Second World War is about to reach Holland. So by chance, it might be that you may have to leave Holland permanently. All right. So at that time, it will not be possible for you to carry so many things with you. Right. Because you will be in a hurry to save your life and you will just carry all the important clothes and items and you will be leaving your house. So why don't you give me your valuable things? So slowly, every, week or every day, I'll take one thing or two things or five things with me and take it to my house. And when the war will be over, जब war खत्म हो जाएगा, when the war will be over, you can, I can return you all those items. So the narrator's mother also agreed, yes, it will be quite good if you help like that. Okay, so almost every week, say for example, almost every week or almost every alternate days, Mrs. Darling used to come to the narrator's mother's house, and she used to one by one take all the valuable items with her. Okay. Now, she carried away many expensive valuable items like antique plates, silver cutlery, vases, each time she visited. So, jab bhi, whenever Mrs. Darling would visit the narrator's house, she would take many valuable items from the narrator's mother. Okay, all the items list are here. So, these are all very valuable items. बहुत ही valuable items है ये सब. Now, the narrator felt very angry on her mother. Now, this actually the narrator's mother is telling the narrator that, see, when the narrator asks, no, अरे घर का सामान कहाँ है? Where are the things in the house? Many things are missing in the house. Then the narrator's mother told the narrator that Mrs. Darling used to come and take away these things, okay? So, naturally, the narrator felt very bad. Arey, how come you have given such valuable, expensive items to this Mrs. Darling? So, the narrator asked her mother whether they ever discussed who would finally own those things. So, meaning is this, the narrator asked her mother, did you give Mrs. Darling these things permanently? Okay, did you give these things to Mrs. Darling permanently, or will she return it back to you after the war is over? जब वार खत्म हो जाएगा, क्या मिसेस डॉलिंग ये सारी चीजें आपको रिटर्न दे देगा? आपने क्या इसका कोई एग्रीमेंट बनाया? Did you make any agreement paper or did you even talk to Mrs. Darling regarding this? All right. Now the narrator's mother said that it would be insulting to question Mrs. Darling's good intentions. Now narrator's mother is very, very simple lady. Narrator की माँ जो है वो बहुत simple lady है. So narrator's mother said that no, it will be very insulting if I ask Mrs. Darling that after the war is over, will you return these things to me, or are you keeping this permanently with you? So this thing will be very insulting to Mrs. Darling, and moreover, Mrs. Darling is helping us. So she has all good intentions. Mrs. Darling एक तो हमारी मदद कर रही है, ऊपर से अगर ये क्वेश्चन में मिसेस डॉलिंग को पूछूं कि ये सामान जो है क्या तुम परमानेंटली रख दोगे या वार के बाद मुझे रिटर्न कर दोगे, तो it will be very insulting for her because she is helping us. And moreover, you see, the narrator's mother said, moreover, you see that this thing will definitely be returned by Mrs. Darling to me. She is not keeping it permanently, right? After all, Mrs. Darling was risking a lot by carrying heavy bags every time. And see, the narrator's mother said that, you see, moreover, Mrs. Darling, every time you see all these items are very heavy. All right, and every day, every time she is coming to my house, she is taking the risk of carrying all these items to her house. All right, so, see, if by chance war starts in Holland, then how we, will not be able to carry all these items together, right? So, Mrs. Darling is in a way helping us. She is actually taking a risk by carrying all these heavy items and keeping it safe with her. So, I cannot ask this question to her. All right. So, the narrator again asked her mother, no, mom, you should have made an agreement. You should have made an agreement. List of items that you're giving to her, you should have made a list. All right. And you should have taken a signature. Now, I'm just telling this, okay, this is not in the book. I'm telling you to explain you this thing. And you could have taken a signature from the narrator's mother. You could have taken a signature from Mrs. Darling. That these are the items, okay, antique plates, flower vase, this and that, okay, and you could have taken a signature with the agreement that after the war is over, I will return it back to the narrator's mother, Mrs. S. Did you make this agreement? No. So the narrator's mother became very angry when the narrator asked this question. So her mother gave the narrator a very scolding look. All right, narrator की माँ गुस्सा हो गई. अरे, how can I make an agreement with somebody who is helping us? I cannot make this kind of agreement, okay, right? So the narrator's mother gave the narrator a very harsh, scolding look, and the narrator did not ask any question in future. So the narrator never brought up the topic again. Okay, the narrator felt that let whatever my mother is doing, let her do. It's okay. If I ask any question, my mother will scold me like anything. So it is better that I don't ask any question. यही बेहतर है कि मैं उनको कोई क्वेश्चन ना पूछूं. ठीक है, ये कह के narrator never ever brought up this topic again with her mother. ठीक है. Alright, so the narrator arrived at the station for her return journey. Okay, so The narrator all this time, she was remembering the past incident actually, okay? Now, we come back to the present time. ठीक है, अभी हम present time पे आ रहे हैं जहाँ the narrator has now left Mrs. Dolling's house, and she has now arrived at the train station because she is going to return back to her home. She felt it is no use talking to Mrs. Dolling any longer. Okay, ठीक है, अब आगे देखते हैं. Let us see further. Now you see here, she avoided looking around because the familiar sights reminded her of painful memories from before the war. Now actually, the narrator, many years ago, the narrator was there only where Mrs. Dolling stayed actually. Okay. Now, obviously, she avoided looking around means like when she saw the scenery, the sights, the road, the streets, the houses, it reminded her of her past experience, the past painful memories from before the war time. That is why she avoided looking around, because it reminded, you see, I told you in the beginning only, that the writer of the story actually, she had survived from the Holocaust, okay, the mass killing during the wartime, World War II period, okay. Now you see, the same thing is here happening with the narrator also. She had suffered, she had a very painful experience. She had a lot of painful memories from the World War II, all right, from Second World War. So that is why she avoided looking around, because she felt that looking around would make her remember about the past experiences, the painful experiences. That is why the narrator did not look anywhere else. She just, put her head down and she just concentrated on her thoughts. And the narrator remembered the first meeting with Mrs. Dolling long ago. So long time back, she remembered the first meeting with Mrs. Dolling. Okay, now we are going back to the past once again. So the story once again goes to the past. Okay. Now, the next day, that means the day we're talking about the past incident, okay, the day when the narrator talked to her mother and the mother said that I don't want to hear any more discussions about Mrs. Dolling. Now it is the next day. So the next day, after her mother had spoken about Mrs. Dolling, the narrator got up late and saw her mother bidding someone goodbye. Now you see, the next day, the narrator woke up a little late, okay, she was sleeping, she got up a little late. Now when she got up late, she saw that her mother was giving somebody bye-bye, okay, goodbye. Her mother was bidding somebody goodbye. Now, when she came out to see who that other person was to whom her mother was giving goodbye, she saw Mrs. Dolling standing there. Now, you see, the narrator had not seen Mrs. Dolling. Just the other day, one day before, she had heard about Mrs. Dolling. So, her mother introduced her to Mrs. Dolling and told her to remember the address 46 Marconi Street. So, when the narrator came there to see to whom her mother was bidding goodbye, and she came in front, so her mother introduced that this is my daughter, so-and-so, and this is Mrs. Dolling, and you remember the address of Mrs. Dolling, which is 46 Marconi Street. Don't ever forget this address. Okay? The narrator's mother told the narrator. Mother ने माँ ने बेटी को ये कहा. Now, after the war ended, during the liberation, the narrator did not want to recover her old things. ठीक है, अब war खत्म हो गया है. And the liberation period, during the liberation period when the war had ended, everything is going to restore back to its normalcy. The narrator remembered that my mother's belongings were with this lady called Mrs. Dolling, but she did not want to recover her old things. ठीक है, क्योंकि वो जो है वो सामान के बारे में ज़्यादा सोच नहीं रही थी. She was not thinking about recovering her old things because the war trauma, the pain of the war was still fresh in her mind. And she feared that those things would keep reminding her of suffering. So she did not want to bring those old things back because, you see, the painful experience of war was still fresh in the narrator's mind. And she was afraid that if I bring back those things to my house, then when I will see those items, it will remind me of that suffering. अगर मैं वो सामान मिसेस डॉर्लिंग के घर से लेके आऊँ वापस, तो मैं उन सामान को देख के जो है मुझे उस वार का जो एक्सपीरियंस है, पेनफुल एक्सपीरियंस, उसका याद आता रहेगा एंड आई विल नॉट बी एबल टू sleep. I will not have any peace of mind. So that is why she left the idea of recovering those things. Okay. But later, when life became more stable, when life became normal, okay, and peaceful, now she became curious about her mother's possessions kept at Mrs. Darling's house. ठीक है? So the war had ended now. All right, and life had become normal now and peaceful now. Now the narrator felt that I must bring those things from Mrs. Darling's house that belonged to my mother, because her mother had already died. And you see, those things that her mother gave to Mrs. Darling, these are memories. All right. So she wanted to keep those memories in her house now. So the narrator decided that I will go to Mrs. Darling's house, 46 Marconi Street, and I will bring my mother's belongings back to the house. Now you see, her first visit failed because Mrs. Darling refused to talk to her and, shut the door, close the door. Now you see, the narrator became very adamant now that no, I will have to try for the second time. For the second time, I will go to Mrs. Darling's house, and this time I'll try to recover these items again. All right. So first time failed. Mrs. Darling did not want to talk. Now second time the narrator is going to try again. तो second time के लिए narrator जो है फिर से try करेगी. ठीक है. अब आगे देखते हैं. Let us see further what happens. Whether this time, second time, Mrs. Darling will really give back her mother's belongings, the narrator's mother's belongings, back to the narrator. Okay, we will see this now. Now, the second time, a 15-year-old girl opened the door and asked her to wait in the living room. So now the second time, the narrator again came to Mrs. Darling's house. As usual, she rang the doorbell. But this time, Mrs. Darling did not come to open the door. It was a 15-year-old girl who came, opened the door, and asked, "What do you want?" So naturally, the narrator said that I want to meet Mrs. Darling. So this girl asked her that you please wait in the living room while I'll go inside and call Mrs. Darling. Now actually Mrs. Darling was not at home. Mrs. Darling घर पे नहीं थी. तो लड़की ने कहा कि Mrs. Darling is not at home actually, so she'll not be able to talk to you naturally. But the narrator said, it's okay. I'll wait for some time for Mrs. Darling to return back home. You see, the narrator this time was adamant that इस बार तो मैं सामान घर वापस लेके ही जाऊंगा. This time I'm going to take my mother's belongings back with me as a memory. Okay. Now, Mrs. Darling was not at home, but the narrator said, okay, I'll wait for her. मैं यहाँ पे बैठ के मैं wait करती हूँ. Okay. Now, when she was taken to the living room by the 15-year-old girl, so on the way to the living room, she noticed an old iron Hanukkah candle holder that her family never used because it was too heavy. Now you see, while she was going inside the living room, the narrator kept looking here and there. Narrator जो है इधर उधर आँख जो है वो देख रही थी. And there were many things in the room that belonged to her mother, the narrator's mother actually. And the narrator noticed there's an old iron candle holder. Okay, Hanukkah candle holder that the narrator's family never used because it was too heavy actually. So that candle holder also was taken by Mrs. Darling. All right. Then inside the living room, when she entered the living room now, she was shocked. The narrator was shocked to see her mother's old belongings everywhere inside the living room. ठीक है, जब वो लिविंग रूम में एंटर हुई तब उस नैरेटर ने देखा और वो शॉक हो गई. शी वाज शॉक्ड टू सी दैट everything in the living room, at least 95% of the things in the living room belonged to her mother. All right. And she felt very bad. Okay. You see, she felt very bad because first time when she came to visit Mrs. Darling did not even talk to her. Alright, so she felt very bad, and after seeing all these old things, the narrator suddenly remembered her dead mother. माँ की याद आ गई narrator को, okay? And she felt a strange heaviness and fear and avoided looking around too much. Now you see, when she started seeing all these things that belonged to her mother once upon a time, she felt very sad. उसको उसकी माँ की याद आ गई. She suddenly remembered her mother and she started having a feeling of heaviness and fear, you see. And she felt that I will start crying now because, after seeing these things, she started remembering, it reminded her of her mother. अपनी माँ की याद आ गई narrator को. तो narrator avoided looking around too much. तो narrator ने इधर उधर देखना ही बंद कर दिया. She stopped looking around. Okay. Now the girl told the narrator, please have a seat. So the narrator was offered a chair by the girl. Okay. So the girl offered the narrator a chair and she sat down. तो narrator बैठ गई chair पे. Now the narrator, the narrator recognized her mother's woolen tablecloth. Even the tablecloth belonged to the narrator's mother. All right. Now you see, the narrator started touching the tablecloth actually. Woolen tablecloth. It was a woolen tablecloth. Okay. The narrator started touching her mother's woolen tablecloth to feel that memory that she had with her mother, and she started touching it, its knitted patterns. Okay. And she searched. Now she remembered that there's a burn mark on that tablecloth that had never been repaired actually. All right. Now actually this burn mark was actually during her mother's time only, and that burn mark was still there on the tablecloth. And she suddenly remembered that after seeing that burn mark, the narrator suddenly remembered her mother. All right. Now the girl offered the narrator some tea. तो लड़की ने चाय ऑफर किया narrator को. When the girl opened a box to take out spoons, the narrator admired the box. तो लड़की ने जब एक box खोला to take spoons outside, the narrator told the girl, oh, it is a very beautiful box. Okay. And the girl said that it was an antique and mentioned there were more antiques in the house. So लड़की ने कहा हाँ, this is an antique actually. Antique is a very old thing. Okay. 100 years, 200 years, very old thing. Okay. So the girl said that yes, it is an antique, and there are many other antiques in the house. And the narrator again noticed other items but kept her eyes on her favorite pewter plate from childhood. अब narrator का आँख गिरा एक plate के ऊपर. The narrator's eyes fell on a plate, and that plate was her favorite childhood plate on which she used to eat her food. तो narrator ने उस plate को देखा. देखिए, हर सामान जो है belonged to the narrator's mother. Everything in the house of Mrs. Darling, almost everything belonged to the narrator's mother, right? And Mrs. Darling is refusing to give these things back to the narrator. ठीक है. तो narrator ने notice किया ये pewter plate, and suddenly she remembered that when I was a child, I used to eat on this plate only. All right. And the girl said they often use the pewter plate, and I'd even used the antique plates on the wall once. तो लड़की ने कहा हाँ, actually we have our lunch, dinner on this plate, and there are many other antique plates actually in the house. We use those items also. Now the narrator found the burn mark on the plate she had been searching for. तो narrator जो है उसने notice किया that one of the plate had, this pewter plate actually had a burn mark, and she discovered the burn mark on that plate. And yes, she was confirmed after seeing the burn mark that yes, this is the plate that I used to use when I was a small child. जब मैं छोटी बच्ची थी तब मैं ये plate इस्तेमाल करती थी. Narrator was confirmed now. She commented that we don't always notice such beautiful things when we use them every day, only when something is missing or broken. So the narrator said what? The narrator said that such beautiful things are not actually used often and are not used every day. ऐसी antique चीजें हम सजा के रखते हैं घर पे. We decorate antique items in the house. We decorate valuable, expensive items in the house. We don't use them. We use them on occasions when some visitors come to your house, but we don't use it every day. All right, we use it only when something is broken or missing in the house, then we can use as a replacement. But such valuable items we don't use regularly, right? Now the narrator's voice felt strange to her, but she continued and shared a memory. So narrator का voice जो है अभी थोड़ा सा choking हो गया. Okay, and she continued to share a memory. The narrator started sharing a memory. What is the memory? Her mother once asked her to help with silver. She later realized the spoons, forks, and knives they ate with this were actually made of silver. Okay, so she shared a memory with. Actually, she shared two memories with the girl. Narrator अभी chair पे बैठी है. The girl is also sitting on the chair. The narrator is also sitting on the chair. And now the narrator talked little sharply, harshly. Not too much harsh, but the narrator was really angry because these things belong to her mother and Mrs. Darling has refused to return these things to her. And that is why she now spoke little harshly to that girl, 15-year-old girl. Okay. Now, two incidents, two memories that she is now narrating to this girl. One is her mother once asked her to help with the silver. Silver means silver plate. Okay. And number two, she later realized the spoons, forks, and knives they ate with were actually made of silver. So, after seeing the items that the girl had opened, spoons and all, forks, okay, the narrator intentionally, in order to hurt the girl and indirectly Mrs. Darling, okay, she narrated this incident to this girl. That मेरी माँ ने भी कहा था, my mother also asked once to put the tables on the put the plates on the table. These were the same plates. ये वही plates थी. And the spoons also, the forks also actually, it was exactly like this only that you are holding right now. So it was a pun. It was a kind of an insult, indirect insult that intentionally was made by the narrator to the girl. So the narrator then asked the girl if she knew what they were eating with. So narrator ने लड़के से पूछा कि what do you use to eat food? खाना खाने के लिए तुम लोग क्या इस्तेमाल करते हो? Now the girl hesitated a little bit, then went to open a drawer. तो लड़के ने थोड़ा hesitate किया in the beginning, but then she went on and she opened a drawer, and the narrator already guessed what was about to happen. She quickly stood up and said she was late for her train. So when the girl opened the drawer, the narrator had already guessed what the girl was about to show her. All right. And even before seeing that thing, the narrator got up, stood up from her chair, and she told the girl that I cannot wait for Mrs. Darling any longer. I'm getting late for my train. So I'm going now. And the narrator went out of the house. Now, you might feel, dear students, you might feel that the narrator had come second time to the house of Mrs. Darling to take back the things from Mrs. Darling that belonged to her mother, right? But without taking because Mrs. Darling did not return yet. So without even meeting Mrs. Darling, without even taking the things from Mrs. Darling, why did the narrator leave the house? And let me tell you, this time she left the house never to return back. दोबारा फिर से आने के लिए वो नहीं निकली. She left Mrs. Darling's house permanently, as if she did not wanted all these things. Let Mrs. Darling keep all the things for her only. She is a greedy woman. All right. So she left without waiting for Mrs. Darling, and as she walked out, she heard the jingling of cutlery. तो बिना Mrs. Darling के लिए wait किए, without waiting for Mrs. Darling, she walked out of the house. And when she walked out of the house, she heard the sound, she heard the jingling of cutlery. Cutlery means spoon, fork, knife, etc. Okay, she heard that jingling sound, ting, 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 ting sound she heard. And it reminded her of her mother because those things belonged to her mother and she had come to collect those things as a memory, but she never got those things. So she had left hope. And out of frustration, grief, sorrow, anger, she left the house of Mrs. Darling. From the corner of the street, she checked the nameplate again. The address was correct, but she no longer wanted to remember it. Okay? अब ये एक बहुत ही emotional point है. This is a very emotional point here. She came out of the house, and from one corner of the street, she saw the name plate at the door, on the door again. The address was correct, 46 Marconi Street. But the narrator no longer wanted to remember the address. ये 46 Marconi Street, she no longer wanted to remember. वो इस address को permanently भूल जाना चाहती है. She wants to forget this address permanently because she felt that objects tied to old memories lose their meaning when seen in strange surroundings after a long time. I'll explain you a little bit about this, okay? मैं इसके बारे में थोड़ा सा आपको explain करता हूँ. Say for example, you give me a book. All right. Or say for example, I borrow a book from you. All right. And I borrow a book from you for say 1 month. Okay. And I promise to return you the book after 1 month. Now 1 month passes. I did not return you the book. Now naturally you come to my house to collect your book. Now when you come to collect your book, you see that the book, instead of lying on the table, the book is lying inside the dustbin. How will you feel at that time? आपको कैसा लगेगा कि I lent a book to sir, and instead of keeping the book nicely, okay, संभाल के रखना चाहिए था मुझे, instead of keeping the book nicely on the table, okay, or on the bookshelf, what you see your book inside the dustbin. How will you feel at that time? Either you'll fight with me, argue with me, right? Or you'll feel very sad, very frustrated, as if you did not expect this thing from me, right? It is the same thing that has happened to the narrator. The narrator's mother had given many things to this Mrs. Darling, but Mrs. Darling, kept them inside the house, as if these are useless items, okay? And she is not even trying to return it back to the narrator again. Mrs. Darling, even did not consider that these things are actually memories of the daughter now, because she has lost her mother. Even if I can return half of the items, if not all, even if I could return some of her favorite items to the daughter back, the daughter will live with the memory of her mother for the rest of her life. But Mrs. Darling did not do this. So she no longer wanted to remember Mrs. Darling. She no longer wanted to remember that address, and even the objects also, because once again, let me read. She felt that objects tied to old memories lose their meaning when seen in strange surroundings after a long time. So when these objects actually lose their meaning, when these objects are seen in very strange surroundings and in very strange situation after a long time. जैसे कि आपका डस्टबिन, आपका जो बुक है और जो उसको मैंने डस्टबिन में डाल दी, your book that I actually put in the dustbin, when you come and see your book is put in a very strange situation inside the dustbin, that book will lose its importance. That book will lose its meaning. Maybe that book is a memory, is a gift from your father, and maybe that person's father is no more, right? So this is the same thing that has happened with the narrator. And she also thought that there was no use for those things in a small rented room which could not fit many items. So she tried to console herself. अपने आप को बहुत वो समझा रही थी. She started explaining herself. The narrator started explaining herself that ये सामान लेके मैं करते भी क्या, मैं तो एक छोटे से भाड़ा रूम में रहती हूँ. I live in a small rented room. Even if I had brought all these items from Mrs. Darling's house, where would I have kept? मैं ये सब सारा सामान मैं कहाँ रखती? And it could not fit so many items in my small rented house also. She was trying to console herself. Actually, she wanted those things. But now you see, she's trying to console herself because she knows that I'll never get these things from Mrs. Darling, right? So finally, she decided to forget the address, which she believed would not be hard for her to do because time heals everything. Time सब कुछ heal कर देता है. So she feels that, as time will pass, I'll forget the address of Mrs. Darling. I'll forget the behavior of Mrs. Darling. I'll forget Mrs. Darling herself. And I'll forget all the items of my mother that I saw in the house of Mrs. Darling. And with time, it will not be very hard to forget all these things. तो ये ज़्यादा difficult नहीं होगा मेरे लिए ये सब भूल जाना, because as time will pass, I'll slowly forget it. So with this consolation, she is going to live now for the rest of her life. And here is where the story ends. A very emotional story. The story has become a little long. You can watch the video either in one go. Okay. The video is maybe, around 40 minutes. Okay. 40-50 minutes. So, you can watch, half. Today half and tomorrow half. Or if you want to watch the video in 1 hour, you can watch. Okay, you can watch by increasing the speed also, by skipping some of the points that you might feel is not important. Okay, anyways, my duty is that I explain you everything in detail, which I have done. I suppose I have done. Okay, and questions and answers are available for this lesson on my website. You go and check my website. I have already put the important questions and answers, both textual questions and answers and also extra important questions and answers. आप जाके मेरा website check कर लीजिए, and please type the name of the lesson, the spelling of the lesson correctly, so that you get the answers. मेरे website पे जाके आपको मिल जाएगा, and these links are given in the description box also. So finally, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. आप में से बहुत है, many are there who watch my videos but they have not subscribed. So I request you to subscribe to the channel. Please like my video. Whenever you watch my video, please put a like and share my videos. Invite your friends, those who have not subscribed, invite your friends to subscribe to the channel. Okay, थोड़ा मेरा promotion भी कर दीजिए. Okay, you can promote my channel. Okay, for your benefit only, because I'm providing not only videos, explanations, but I'm providing you notes also. With every video, notes will be available on my website. The moment you watch the video, you can go and check my website. You'll find the notes. Okay, and you can scan these QR codes also. These are my Instagram and website QR codes. You can simply scan. In fact, all the important links are given in the description box only. Okay, so that's all from me for today. Thank you so much for watching the video. With love from Omni Gyan, and all the best to all of you. Thank you so much.